Hi, I'm Crystal O'Connor with Fearless Ambition Magazine. I'm sitting here today with Angela Myers with Myers Education. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and we share a passion, and that is education and educating the child and what goes on in the child's mind as they're learning. And one of the things she does, which I love talking about as well, is teaching a child how to think. But she taught for
14 years.
14 years, and a total of 20, but now she goes around the country teaching teachers how to teach. So tell me about that. What are you doing right now, for instance?
I am expanding my opportunity to work with learners. So for 14 years, the learners were really, really short, and now learners are every age because, and I think we can learn a lot of lessons from children because as I work with both teachers and students are actually easier, because they're open-minded and they're excited and they're passionate about learning. I mean, they come out of the womb.
You're still doing a little bit of that, but now you're teaching the teachers.
Yes.
It's a little bit different, isn't it?
It is. And so switching that mode, learning is learning. But the mindset of learners that view themselves as accomplished from a novice learner is so different. So in a way, the kids are still driving what I'm doing right now because I'm trying to reopen what it means to be a learner, because that's really what success is and what Fearless Ambition is about. Look how much you've had to learn just in the last 6 months. Everything, as technology changes and as the world changes, we all have to be 3-year-olds again.
Kids are so receptive to what you're saying. They
Absolutely.
believe what you're saying.
Absolutely.
And they don't necessarily need proof.
Right.
Do they?
No.
Whereas these teachers, they've got to be constant learners as well. We all do.
Yes.
But what you're doing is maybe even introducing them to a different way of teaching because of social media, what's going on, and what's going on. We need to prepare our kids for a different world. And that means teach the teachers how to sometimes think like an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Get creative in the way they think, the way they teach, and the way they think as well. And so what are some of the key components of what you're teaching? Because social media, I know, is part of it.
Absolutely.
Blogging, for instance.
Absolutely.
So when you go into a classroom and you are teaching a classroom of teachers, and you are teaching them how to structure their classroom a little bit differently and how to teach the kids a little bit differently, name one thing that comes to your mind.
The very first thing that comes to mind is the focus of the conversation. Because
so how the teacher is focusing the conversation.
That's right. And if you look at when you went to school, when I went to school, who owns the conversation? It's what I call a transmission. So the teacher sits here at the front of the room and transmits their expertise, and kids are expected to sit there passively and nod their heads. And
so the structure of the room is set different.
So the conversation is a conversation from an expert to a novice, not learner to learner. So the very first thing I want to model to kids and to teachers is that I'm approaching them as a learner. So I stand in front of them as the learner I wish them to be. And I speak that to them. I say, today as readers, here's what our work is about. This is the kind of reader I want you to be. Watch me do this. And then I reveal to them what it is that I do differently as the kinds of reading that I do have changed. For example, reading blogs is very different from reading the newspaper or a magazine or a textbook.
How is it different?
Because online reading is disconnected text. It's all about links and hyperlinks and being able to connect lots of what we call bits of information. That's very different than reading a contained text where you start on page 1 and you end at the end. And so you've had to redesign who you are as a reader. Writing is also different because you're writing now not to write the perfect 5-paragraph essay.
Well, and grammatical errors are important, but you're teaching the teachers that blogging is forgiving.
Absolutely.
In terms of everything doesn't have to be perfect, but the message needs to be there.
That's right. Everything, what I call the rules of learning. So the rules of learning for us is that knowledge was held by someone else, that it was our job to catch that knowledge by listening carefully and regurgitating what we heard, or what I call hear it and hold it, and that it was finite, that once you mastered it, you went on to another. The rules of learning in the 21st century, whether you're a 5-year-old or you're a bigger than 5-year-old, whether you're in business or you're a teacher, is that learning is in a constant state of flux. It's dynamic and it's co-constructed. So it's not so much that the blog is forgiving. It's that the community
And
is
that-
forgiving.
The blog world,
The
maybe?
blog world, the connected global community that you are learning with and from is forgiving, because everything is about presenting ideas as they are and working it out in public.
Okay.
And that's really what my blog is.
Okay.
It's working out in raw, honest, transparent ways what I believe, what I think, what I understand.
Because what
Yes.
you're talking about, if you were to be forgiving in what you're reading in a blog and bypass the grammatical errors that might
Absolutely.
be there and look at the depth of the message
Yes.
that's being sent.
Absolutely.
And when you do that, I think you allow the child to start expressing themselves.
Right.
Don't worry so much about perfection.
That's right.
And let's think about what you're really thinking. And that leads to creativity.
That's right.
Am I right?
Perfection is the enemy of creativity.
Ah.
Perfection and proficiency is the enemy to new learning. Because the moment you think you've got it
Yeah.
and you're done, just the idea that you tell your brain, I'm done, then
Yeah.
what is there to still wonder about, and what is
Right.
there to still grow from?
Right.
An entrepreneurial mindset, as you speak about, is a 3-year-old mindset. One who says...
Open-minded.
Completely open-minded, completely transparent, willing to risk.
There's not a black and white.
Absolutely.
It's all very colorful.
That's right.
And you use people's ideas
It's
to...
collaborative,
Yeah.
it's imaginative, it's brave, it's courageous, it is freeing, it's humbling, because it's all about doing whatever it takes to figure out who they are and who the world is. I mean, and isn't that what entrepreneurs are doing? Trying to figure out
They are.
who they are, what the world they live in, and how they can make it better.
Right. Angela is also an author. She wrote the 5 Habitudes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me what the 5 Habitudes are.
They are imagination, surprise, curiosity, oh my gosh, adaptability, courage to be comfortable with ambiguity, things that
Yeah.
aren't perfect, that takes courage, the ability to risk and fail,
Okay.
and the tenacity to persevere in something you believe in and something you feel convicted
It's an
about.
awesome book. It moved
Thank
me. I
you.
couldn't put it down. And so I read it actually in a day, and I became excited, and that's when I went further into researching Angela and what she teaches, and I've even watched you teach teachers, and I loved it. I know that when you are teaching them, you're kind of breaking away layers of maybe even a fear that they have
Absolutely.
of this change that's occurring.
Right.
It's not just occurring, it's already done.
It
I
is.
mean, we have entered
10
the
years into the
information
21st
age.
century.
Yep. And
Yeah.
there are teachers out there that are phenomenal.
Yes.
You have to respect what they do,
Absolutely.
and I do, but they do need to start being more receptive, and we need to help them do that.
Yes.
And one thing that you've done, and you continue to do, is travel all over the nation.
Yes.
Tell me, you just got back from D.C.
Yes.
and then in Boston and Texas. Tell me what you saw, for instance, in the classroom in Texas that is happening all over, this change, one of the biggest changes.
It's really exciting to see teachers with these habitudes, because really they were not something that an educational system encouraged. They did not encourage you when you went to school, when I went to school, to ask a question or to be innovative. They emphasize conformity and following the
Yeah.
rules and doing what the teacher says. So for teachers to break away from that takes a huge amount of courage, and to give up control of their expertise, not control of mass chaos in the
Yeah.
classroom, but control of the intellectual domains, and open up the doors to
Yeah.
even being brave enough to ask students, what do you think? What do you believe? How do you see it? Can you
That-
share that with me?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of courage. And so I've had this amazing opportunity to work with almost 2,000 teachers this summer as they, as a community, become braver together. Because teachers come to school almost every day under, struggling conditions.
Right.
To do good in the world. They don't come, to say, I want to bore my kids, or I want to make Johnny go home confused today.
Yeah.
They come into this to try to change, and yet they're a part of a system
Right.
that doesn't really support that for them. So it takes a lot of bravery to break out of that mold and the fear of standards and testing, and
Okay.
and to really let learning happen
Yeah.
authentically and naturally. As much as they want it, there's a lot of fear that comes with that. And
Yeah.
so that's what I've been helping them work through this summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope you come back and we can talk more.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about what is happening on the college campuses that is more collaborative as opposed to sitting in the classroom style.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Angela.
So remind me to talk about MIT, because
Yes.
all of their courses are sent home on iTunes. They send the courses home, and the homework's done in
That
class.
is interesting.
Yes.
It's fabulous.
So for our next conversation,
Okay, we'll do that.
excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.